are about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength of street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
Welcome back. It's Warrior Creed with me, the radical Maajid Nawaz, and my brother, as always, the infamous Usman Raja. Assalamu alaikum, Usman.
Walaikum assalam.
Now we've got to get through a bit of analysis about Elon Musk's latest moves today, because there's some important topics I'd like everybody to pay attention to, because I think they're going to have global implications, and it's all based on the latest piece on Radical Media called "It's a Trap." Musk pays surrogates revenue on Twitter to lock them into his everything app, which is called X. So the piece is what we're going to go through today in terms of slides, images, references, and video clips are all found in that piece, which is found at maajidnawaz.substack.com. And it gives you the written format, the written version of the audio that you're now going to hear, which will also eventually be released for basically premium members, the audio. It will be released for premium members on that same page, Radical Media, which is on maajidnawaz.substack.com. And let's go straight into what we're talking about, because what happened in the news, guys, is the following. Twitter has started paying ad revenue for verified creators, and that's the news in TechCrunch, which is one of the news websites that addresses these sorts of things. And that otherwise and normally and on an ordinary day in 2011 would look very benign. Right? But we're not in 2011 anymore. We're in 2023. So before I tell you precisely what the problem is with that otherwise looks very benign according to standards before perhaps the the particle collider in CERN put us in a new timeline where everything is fucked up. But before I get into that, I'm going to tell you what people are earning. So he's announced people are earning. Now, what you should know is it's only for verified users, and I'm not verified because I lost my blue check because I refused to pay him, and that's going to explain itself as you listen to the problem here. Yeah, but those who are basically what I consider simps and sycophants to the world's most richest, at least published richest man. Those who seem to find every critique we pose of this man so upsetting to themselves, even though they've never met him and don't know him, that they have to jump to his defense immediately online whenever we raise a concern. Those types have been earning money. They've been basically earning bank off Twitter's new revenue share. So here's an example of one of his surrogates. This guy, remember who he is. We're going to come back to him, Usman. He's based in Malaysia. He's calling himself on Twitter @StillGray, which is his handle, and his profile name, Ian Miles Chung, I think that says there. And he's earned, as you can see from this screenshot of the recent revenue share, $16,259. And he's commented there, incredible. So he's very happy there with Elon Musk. Now, remember Ian Miles Chung, because we're going to come back to him, because I'm openly calling him a paid Musk surrogate on Twitter, whose sole purpose is to defend, promote, and otherwise simp for everything Elon Musk puts up on that platform. Remember who he is, because we're going to come back, and I'm going to that sentence I just uttered, that his reason to be on Twitter is as a paid surrogate for Elon Musk, and he basically promotes and simps for everything Musk puts up there. I'm going to come back. Of course, Usman, as always with these things, we're using colorful language and don't mean what we're saying in any literal legal sense of simp, in the sense that he's not, of course, dressing up in a leather suit and bending over to perform various unspeakable acts upon Elon Musk's body. We're not saying that literally, just in case he feels offended by this remark. We're joking. But that's the image we wish to conjure when referring to this man for this reason. So I say remember him, because I'm going to come back to why he's a surrogate. He's been paid, as is Krasenstein. This man here got $25,000. His account is also verified. But the danger is when you don't realize what's going on, that otherwise good people like Tim Pool are also dragged in here. So Tim got $5,825 from him. And as you know, Usman, I've been on Tim's show and I've got no beef with Tim. So Tim, as you, and if you watch this, I don't even expect you to, but if you do, take everything else I'm saying from here on in, not to be directed at you, but to rather be as a word of caution, as a friend that hopefully you hear. But actually, I'm talking about the surrogates, in particular, Ian Miles Chung and those like him that I'm going to come to in a second. But that's some of the earnings that you see there. Now, it's interesting because while those people are earning, those that aren't paying Elon Musk aren't just not earning, their accounts are being shadow banned and in some cases directly censored. So to prove that point, let me just remind you all what YouTube is using this model already. What it does is it pays you to keep you in a gilded cage. So currently, like our friend Tim Pool, who also, his show also is on YouTube and also earns from YouTube. When you're on YouTube, they pay you a whole bunch of money and you can't break their platform rules. So during COVID, you couldn't say certain things. You couldn't challenge the COVID mandates. I've spoken to Tim about this and he assured me that was a problem for him, and he desperately tries to struggle against it and hates the fact that he built his show on YouTube before they started censoring. Tim and I had this chat. He unfortunately built his show before they started this. So now he's obviously earning money on that platform. He's stuck there. It's like, imagine you had a mortgage on a house and then lost your job. So that's what's happened to Tim. Now, that model, the YouTube Google model, because Google owns YouTube, it's the gilded cage model. They will pay loads of money and keep you on their platform and then, of course, enforce incrementally their censorship. So it started, of course, before COVID on the war on terror topic. You couldn't even name certain problems. And, that whole cancel culture thing emerged. And now with COVID, we see that even the word COVID flags through AI, flags on YouTube, and they have to censor it. So I'm going to give one example for that, and that's my recent interview for the What Is Money podcast with Robert Breedlove. Now, Robert, again, I've spoken to. We texted about this. Again, he's a good guy. This isn't designed to criticize him. This is, I'm showing what everybody else, the viewers, what Robert already knows he has to succumb to be on YouTube. And that is that some people have, look at that comment. This is from my recent interview on YouTube. And it's for the What Is Money podcast by Robert Breedlove. And somebody's written at the bottom there on YouTube, I love Maajid, but I think YouTube has shadow censored parts of this episode as about 10 to 20 minutes are muted. Thanks again for the great conversation, Robert. Now, that's one example. Here's another example. And this one is from Twitter. It says, Breedlove, a number of parts have been censored. The sound is missing. Where can we find a version that is uncensored, please? Now, I thought when I saw this, I thought there's nothing better than showing our viewers precisely what we're talking about when we're talking about the dangers of living in a gilded cage where you're paid for your content, but the platform that pays you has a policy that prevents you from speaking forever on certain topics. Otherwise, you lose your only or primary sources of income, which is your created content on these platforms. So here's an example. We just showed you two viewers saying they couldn't hear my latest interview with Robert Breedlove on Twitter. So what I did is I actually went on YouTube, I should say. So what I did is I actually went to that interview on YouTube and found an example of what they're referring to, bro. So have a look at this.
So if you go back to the Rogan interview, what I said is that the invention of the printing press led to the 30 Years' War in Europe. Because, of course, once you democratized access to information, people were access to the Bible for the first time. And with all the cons that come with self-taught religion, one of the things they did realize is that they were being exploited by the church, and things like favors were being sold.
Indulgences, right?
Indulgences. Yeah. And so what you ended up with, 30 Years' War and the rebalancing of power between the church, the state, and the people. Now, the internet has done a very similar thing. So originally writing did that. Then the printing press did that. We're in that moment now with the internet. Yeah. We didn't realize it because, of course, we're the proverbial boiling frog in water. We've been, I don't know how old you are, but I'm
37.
Right, so I remember a time before the internet.
Yeah, me too.
And I remember a time before mobile phones. Certainly remember a time before YouTube, and definitely remember a time before Twitter.
Yeah.
Whereas, my son will never. My 6-year-old son. Nor will my 22-year-old.
Now, I could carry on and just play silent video, because that carries on for ages and ages on YouTube. And that's the latest interview I did, bro. But I won't carry on because, of course, you get the point. Now, what we're trying to get at is that's what happens when you're in a gilded cage and you're paid for content. Now, the question is Musk trying to do that on Twitter, which is the warning I'm attempting to give everybody. So let's look at Musk's track record. He's already declared war against Substack, which is a decentralized platform that allows you at least to keep your own user base, your customers. You control your mailing list. You're able to download your mailing list and take it with you to any other platform if you don't like their policies. So you have that power on Substack to walk away, which Musk doesn't like. So he's gone to war against Substack. And this is Substack responding on April the 6th, 23, saying, we're investigating reports that Twitter embeds and authentication no longer work on Substack. We are actively trying to resolve this and will share updates as additional information becomes available. Well, it never got resolved. Links and embeds are still prohibited from Twitter on Substack. But now he's added a new dimension to this, and that is that he's now also suing Zuckerberg. Mark from the Insider reports Elon Musk's lawyer sends letter threatening to take Mark Zuckerberg to court over his Twitter copycat. So what Elon Musk started with Substack, complaining that their thing called Stacks is a copy of Twitter. Then Facebook started doing it with Threads, and Musk has started a war with Facebook over that too. So we reported on this already. But remember that if you're looking, remember, we're trying to work out whether Elon Musk is doing to Twitter what Google and YouTube have already done with the gilded cage model. Remember, that's what we're focused on here, yeah? And I'm showing you what Elon Musk's intentions are. So don't forget, if he had nothing but good love and hopes for peace for you guys, why would he appoint the a director of the World Economic Forum as his new CEO? So you got to remember who we're talking about here when I'm warning that this revenue share on Twitter is in danger of putting content creators into a gilded cage, similar to what YouTube's already succeeded in doing. And I'm showing you patterns of behavior from Musk, his war with Substack, his war with Zuckerberg, when they have any competing technology, and his appointment of a WEF director as CEO of Twitter show you that there's a track record here. But it gets worse, bro. This is what Musk has already told us he wants to do with Twitter. And that is, he wants to create the everything app. He wants to turn Twitter into the everything app. Now, we warned already, as you can see from this tweet, we already warned that what do they want to do with the everything app? I'm going to read it for you. It says, clever, right? Get the blue check, fall under his dominion, link the blue check to receiving money from content. Advertisers will boost content. So if you want the money, you have to comply. See, it's not forced. You know, I'm sorry that tweet by that person isn't written legibly enough, but I've read it there for you, and that's pretty much what he means by it. And it's a good point, because Vox has already reported that's what Musk is doing. He's going to create the everything app on Twitter. It's a super app. And here's the point. What does he want to model it on? Well, the thing is, what we already know is Musk has already told us that Twitter is no longer called Twitter. It's now called X. There's the proof there with the legal registration. It's not even legally called Twitter anymore. And what he wants to achieve with that is that he wants to basically create something built on the model of WeChat, which is something that article already goes into and explains that that's the model that he's seeking to base Twitter's everything app on. WeChat is the Chinese version of the everything app, and it's pretty much the Black Mirror social credit score app. It even tells you when an undesirable is near you and gives you points for moving away from socially undesirables. Now, we know that's already happening on Twitter, because if you don't do Musk's bidding, then he shadow bans you. Similar to WeChat, the undesirables get deboosted. And here's a user on Twitter, and the problem is not because they haven't verified. Look at that blue check there. They've even paid Musk, but they're saying stuff that Musk doesn't like. So their content is getting deboosted. They're pleading with Musk to get rid of the shadow ban, even though they've paid. People say, Maajid, you're whinging about being deboosted. Why don't you just pay $8 a month? And I'm arguing that you're all simps and you're naive and you don't understand you're being played by somebody who thinks that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely, because he laughs at your expense. He's taking your money while shadow banning you if you don't do his bidding. Look, here's another one. This man is Radical Media's even been in touch with. Look, he has a blue check too. He also pays, but He's complaining, 13th of July. I somehow didn't make the cut for the ads revenue program, despite meeting multiple times over the threshold numbers. Maybe reporting on the new Twitter CEO's WEF ties was a bad idea after all. And then here's the Daily Express telling us that Musk has started to ban people that criticize his other company, Tesla. So we have to be under no delusions that just because I'm not paying the $8 a month, that my clips are being deboosted, because what we're showing you here is even more than deboosting. What we're showing you here is muting of video content, which even last week we played for everybody to demonstrate what's going on. So let's not pretend that the reason that's happening to our clips on Twitter is because we haven't paid for the blue check. We've just demonstrated to you there are those who have paid for the blue check, and yet despite that are still being deboosted. So the danger is real. The gilded cage model is what it appears like Musk wants to do with Twitter, to create the everything app and to lock creators into that account the way YouTube has done so successfully with otherwise well-intentioned people like the Tim Pool Show on YouTube, where he has to abide by their rules. Now, what's the end game for Musk? Well, last week on Warrior Creed, we did warn everybody that Musk had been promoting anti-Muslim content. So have a look at this again as a reminder, and then we'll come back. Remember, we said we're going to come back to Ian Miles Chung because we warned that this would start spreading, and now his surrogates are in on the play as well. But first, the reminder, this is what we said last week.
Brags that France will become an Islamic country. Note what's being written here because it's important for what comes next. So she writes, France will become an Islamic country through jihad. The entire world will be subject to Islamic rule. The French will, quote, convert to Islam, be forced to pay the jizya, which is a poll tax, or be fought against for the sake of Allah. And then that's the video of the guy. You can see it on your screen there. Now, Amy Meck, you may believe, is putting this out there as a reporter. And if that were the case, that would be her prerogative. Is absolutely fine. But however, if the only thing you were tweeting through all the entirety of the France riots was that kind of stuff, trying to encourage people to believe that the France riots were Islamically motivated, then that's what we're concerned about. And this is what Elon Musk then tweeted in reply to Amy Meck's tweet. You can see it there. It says, he is right. So Elon Musk agreed with Amy Meck that these French riots, with the implication Amy Meck was making by quoting an extreme speaker, that these French riots were an attempt to forcibly convert the French people to Islam. So Elon Musk said, yeah, he's right. That's what they're trying to do. And this is, as we warned last week, what would start to happen. The legitimate concerns and voices of those from the deprived suburbs of Paris expressing their rage. And of course, we condemn all forms of violence and always have against these civilian properties. But to frame this as an Islamic thing is the problem here. And that's what Elon Musk is attempting to do. One more example where Musk has formed doing this.
Now, what Musk, there you can see, did is he promoted that anti-Muslim account. Now, remember Ian Miles Chung, the surrogates then on Twitter, those with thousands and thousands of followers that are being now paid by Musk and boosted, their content boosted by him, have basically, the simps have heard the order. Remember, we don't mean that literally, we're joking. They've heard the order and have started to follow suit. So there he is. Remember I said, bro, remember this guy? So now that's an Achi Ayman event, bro, in East London. And Ian Miles Chung, who doesn't even live in America and doesn't even live in Britain, right? He's somewhere in Malaysia, I think, and has a real, weird internet gamer background. Now he's saying, welcome to jolly old England. And he's showing you a photo of Muslims next to a mosque. The implication, obviously, is there are too many Muslims in England. So remember, that's what's going on. Now, why is Musk pushing this divide and conquer strategy that we've warned of in that Radical Media It's a Trap article? Remember, if you need to bring in the globalist control from the top, including digitalized currencies, you need to tie people into technological platforms where their earnings are entirely dependent on those technological platforms and their censorship policies for them to make a living. So you can see where Musk's game plan is, and you can see why he's decided in Europe and in the European context to attack Muslims. It's the divide and conquer strategy. Why? Because what's he worried about? Well, what he's worried about, and I'm going to leave it on this point, what he's worried about is this point that we have been making from the interview in 2022 with Joe Rogan. The quote there, it says there, you can read it. Muslims, I basically argued with Rogan over a year ago on Joe Rogan's show. Muslims are a lot more conservative. They used to vote Republican. Then Iraq happened and they switched to the Democrats. We're a moment now where that switch is going back very slowly again to the Republicans. What do I mean by that? I'm going to play the clip and then tie this all together for you to tell you what it is, why Musk is playing this card of divide and conquer. What's he trying to avoid? So here's the clip that from over a year ago on Rogan. And you see it very clearly there. Now, that kind of analysis that was over a year ago, here's what's just happened yesterday. And that is that Trudeau in Canada, as the New York Post reports, blames the American right wing for Muslims opposing the LGBTQ curriculum. Leave our kids alone. So those who've been following this will remember that there has emerged a Muslim cross-sector with every other community alliance around protecting children, whether that be with the curricula in schools teaching the LGBT stuff, or the anti-Epstein movement, or the anti-child trafficking movement, or the anti-UK context grooming gang scene. There has been an emerging alliance of people realizing that Muslims are not their enemies. The phenomenon has also included people like Tommy Robinson moving away from his previous focus on Muslims only and realizing that the real problem has been globalists all along. And if you remember last week, we said it's why Nigel Farage left UKIP and set up an entirely new party called the Brexit Party, because he wanted to move away from that rising attempt to blame Muslims for the problem instead of realizing that it was a divide and conquer game. Well, what's happened is that Trudeau is complaining now about the same problem. He's identified that Muslims are working with wider communities all together for the sake of children. And my argument would be why Musk has decided to start going for Muslims in his presence on Twitter and amplifying accounts that are critiquing Muslims, and have his surrogates like Chung also give the implication that there are too many Muslims in Britain with this tweet. Is for the same reason. They wish to prevent that emerging alliance where, after the war on terror, all of the people concerned with protecting children have realized the Muslims have not been their enemy all along, and that the war on terror was set up to portray the Muslims as their enemy in a general sense. So, bro, that's what I think's going on, is why I think Musk is focused on Muslims now in the way with some of his comments. And today, if you look, I haven't put it up here, but I probably can get it. He's also tweeted an image of Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, which we know Vlad was a brutal anti-Muslim, but also anti-human butcher who the Sultan Mehmed II had to deal with by beheading him. But that was the real-life historical Dracula. And Musk has posted a photo of him on Twitter today. So I think my analysis holds up, and this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with somebody that is a globalist and that harbors divide and conquer sentiments and harbors a particular hate for Muslims in Europe, because he's harping back to the Vlad the Impaler Dracula wars that were fought between the Ottoman state and the old Transylvanian devil network. What do you think, Usman? Well,
the thing here is that what he's actually doing with this is there's something called the broken window scenario. So there was an experiment done with an artist where she anesthetized herself, and so she could experience what was being done to her, but she couldn't move. Yeah. And she put herself in front of an audience, and there was a sign there saying, for 6 hours, I can't move, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. And there was a table there with lipstick, knives, guns, and there's all kinds of paraphernalia there. So for the first hour, no one in the audience did anything. And then someone got up and went up to her and started touching her quite gently. Then another person came along and started poking her. And then as the experiment went on, her dress was cut. Someone picked up a knife and actually cut her. Someone fired the gun next to her. And they shut the experiment off 3 hours in. Yeah. And they were saying that it got to a level where the audience, who are normal people, had started dehumanizing because there was a level of, there was the first point of disregard shown. Yeah. The first point of, from the first audience member doing it. Now, the reason I'm explaining this is this experiment is something that we used to use as an example for how dehumanization works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what happens is, the idea of the broken window scenario is that if you get a house and break one window, what you'll find is that people walking past will often pick up rock and start breaking the other windows because they'll think no one lives there. Yeah. Because the one window hasn't been repaired. Yeah. So what ends up happening is when you throw out a claim, especially with social media, and you start seeing that claim compounded, it's like that broken window. You start getting more people climbing on board because you find the scapegoat, or you find your target. Yeah. Now, you have to remember that when we're dealing with people in a time where most people, and we're talking about 99.9% of people, feel disassociated from themselves, even. Yeah. Dislocated, like, I don't fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they then do is they look at what they regard as the other, whether it's the skin tone, whether it's the religion. And you have to remember that with Muslims, there's been an ongoing dehumanization since 9/11. People seem to have had people have forgotten about Muhammad Ali and and they disregard the Muslims among them, even the high profile ones like Dave Chappelle and especially from our hip hop days.
Tyson,
Khabib, and instead, what ends up happening is that you get this vitriol being put out there, and especially when you've got someone like Musk. I mean, it's a very dangerous thing for when you have Musk, who is basically a demigod within that digital sphere. I mean, you saw when he came and took over Twitter. Yeah, people started treating him like the golden calf. He's come in, he's the savior, he's the one who's going to bring back free speech. And even from the point of view of when the NFTs were coming out, the first NFTs, you had this thing where Musk was treated, literally with that deity aspect. Now, for him to tweet out hateful points, hateful tropes that someone will take on, and literally they'll read that and dehumanize the target group. And what happens from that dehumanization? You get victims. Remember this, Maajid. So remember, the thing is, a lot of people don't understand like what we grew up with. That you remember Packy, and remember I said to you, I go, the intent behind the eyes. Nothing else. The scariest thing was the intent behind the eyes, when people used to look at you and you knew if they could, they would kill you. You knew if they could, they would kill you. The only thing that was stopping them was some consequence of like getting caught by the police. Right. And how many times did we barely get away with our lives?
Precisely.
And this is the thing. People don't understand. We're not talking about first generation. We're talking about when the hate got compounded, and we were dealing with.
This is our lifetime.
The generation that had such a level of xenophobia. Now what we're talking about is this, like, this hate of Islam, which is completely irrational, where Muslims are turned into an alien that wants to take over your streets and create slave markets and murder people.
Now, remember, this is coming from the guy that wants to put a microchip in your brain, has already told you just last week that he's now moving on to AI, which he's calling X. Remember, I told you his app's called X. Yeah. So there he's announcing the foundation of XAI, so artificial intelligence, which he wants to own, to put a microchip in your brain, as this we've already reported on there in this Radical Media article. And remember, it's the guy that appointed a World Economic Forum director as his CEO. So how do we trust somebody who's out in public with jackets that say New World Order on them? And he's already told us he wants to make this app into WeChat. Look what, here's the quote, which I don't know if people can read, but I'll read it for everyone on screen. This is a transcript of a recording from Musk about what he wants to do with Twitter. I'll read it for everyone. It says, "We don't even have an app that's as good as WeChat in China. In China, you can on WeChat, basically, everyone that's been there, you live on WeChat, you do payments, you do everything. It's great. WeChat kicks ass, and we don't have anything like WeChat outside of China. So my idea would be like, how about we just copy WeChat? Haha, laughter. Copy them, more laughter, off camera. Buys Twitter, copies WeChat, applause. Musk says, yeah, pretty much. And then there's more laughter. Now that's, again, in the article, I put the video up. I just read the transcript for you, but I put that video up. Here's what WeChat is. That's a screen grab from the app. But this user states there, everything is controlled, including your banking and social media. China uses social credit system to control who you mix with. It maps people near you and gives them a score so you can move away from undesirables. Now, the only question I've got is that the kind of world we want to live in? Whether or not China's doing it or not, the point is, Musk wants to copy that app. And people that get locked into this digital ecosystem, where their entire dependency is on that. And then, of course, they can only say certain things. Then they shape opinion. And you can imagine that the illusion that these people require to keep maintained so that they can continue with their plans towards this new world order, that illusion is obviously maintained if we're dependent on them for our income on their platforms and can't say certain things. And that's the danger I'm saying is coming ahead of us.
But Maajid, the point is with this, it's anyone looking at reality. It's the digital hypermarket, isn't it?
Yeah.
Remember, once again, when we grew up, you had the local corner shop, and if you wanted, I don't know, I actually remember being a kid and going into the store and going, my mum wanted some mixed vegetable stuff for the curries back in those days. Yeah, I went in. Do you have this stuff? And the guy goes, I'll have to order it. Yep. So you'd go in, and the place would have to order some specific thing that you wanted. Yeah. So it was that customer orientated, and then you get the hypermarket, which has everything. Yeah, the Asdas took over, the local bakeries disappeared, the local coffee shop would disappear, and you'd end up with this mega market where you could get everything. Yeah. Monopolization is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And especially, from Musk's perspective and Zuckerberg's perspective, that's the race, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's what they're competing with each other over.
Yeah, and this is why, if you look at clothes wear, if you look at everything, where everything's shredded down to a few select groups where they're selling you stuff with built-in obsolescence, meaning that it will definitely break down within however many years, because they even tell you, that we've built that into the system. That's an accepted practice within capitalism, is planned obsolescence, meaning that any TV you've got will only last like 5 years and then it'll break down. Yeah. Now, the point is with this, that what we're dealing with is what Musk is talking about is the methodology within the system.
Mm.
Yep. And this is the difference now. So, we say, okay, what type of world do you want to live in?
Yep.
And that's a deep, deep question. That's a deep question, because this is the debate that's going on worldwide right now. People might have seen that recently in Russia,
Yeah.
for example, they've banned the gender reassignment surgeries. They've banned that.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, look, we like our traditional lifestyles.
Yeah.
We want to keep the family unit in place. Yeah. Now, what happens here is that once you start looking at this, it's such a deep question. Say, what reality do you want to live in? It's a very deep question, because this point here of monopolization, it's coming. And is what China's doing more manipulative? Because remember, China's saying to you, even from a historical background, the social credit agenda is very Confucian. It's saying to you, look, we want these rules in place. We don't really want any crime. We don't. Why is it that people are moving to Dubai and the Emirates? Because you can literally leave something somewhere and come back and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The days when you could leave your car doors unlocked and your back door and your house unlocked, and your neighbor could come and just knock on the door and you say, the door's open, come in.
Yeah. Well, you got, the
thing is, it's odd, right? That we were alive in times in England where that's perfectly normal, and it's not anymore.
But
I
this
think
is
people think this is nostalgic making this point. It's not. It's reminding everybody, think of what has been lost.
But think about this, Maajid, that if the social control, the social credit act brought in a system where there is zero crime, where there is, and then you're saying, oh,
yeah, people would lap it up.
Yeah, but if it's, and what we're saying is, oh, but it's authoritarian, or authoritarian in what sense? Because what is it that you want to do?
Yeah.
So in China, for example, they'll let you rap, they'll let you do your graffiti, they'll let you do all of these things as long as you don't challenge the state. Yep.
Yeah.
But then you get this concept of, okay, freedom of speech. Now this brings us back to Musk now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
See, now we've got it back. Now we've come full circle back to exactly the point we started with. But yeah, China's talking like this. With Musk, you've got manipulation, but also a dehumanization that's being used. Because remember what we've just said, if you're hyping up Vlad the Impaler, this was a guy who, he in his own town, they say that the ambassador from Poland came, and he's sitting there, and there's all of everyone's impaled on stakes around him.
Yeah,
and Vlad's just sitting there eating, and the ambassador's sitting there. Looking around, he's having to act as if nothing's going on. You're talking about someone who in history is recognized as the devil incarnate.
Yeah, and this is literally the guy that was called Dracula, because that was his title, because he was born to somebody given the title Dracul, because they belonged, his father, to the order of the Dracul, which is the dragon, and Draculae is son of the dragon. This was Vlad. All of the stories of Dracula are about Vlad. Yeah.
And it was our ancestors that were fighting him.
Sultan Mehmed II killed him, beheaded him. He said, bring me his head. Because the man was not only an anti-Muslim and vicious in his anti-Muslimness, but he was anti-human. Now, this is, you mentioned Vlad. I thought I'd show it to people because there's a reason we're talking about Vlad. This is Elon Musk basically posting a picture of Vlad today. Now, ordinarily, you see that I've quote tweeted Elon Musk posting about Vlad, and then I've said, this is Vlad the Impaler. the historic Dracula, known for his seething hatred of Muslims and his demonic cruelty towards all humans. You, Elon Musk, have made your hostile position clear, and Dracula was eventually beheaded by Islamic Sultan Mehmed II. Now, ordinarily, if someone posts just one of these things, like, for example, just the image of Vlad, or just the accidental anti-Muslim promotion, or just a jacket that says New World Order, or just a photo of himself in a Baphomet suit, which I'm going to pull out for everybody as well, just so you can see it. Then I would have said, okay, these are all mistakes, one-off mistake. But you add all these things together, right? So here's the Baphomet, by the way, before. So and when you add all these things together, then a pattern starts emerging. This is, by the way, a ram's head on the suit. There's a upside down crucifix on that ram's head, and this is a Baphomet suit. This is the Devil's Champion suit that you can buy online. Now, you add all these things together, the New World Order jacket there, again, that on the writing on the back there, it says New World Order in Latin. The image of Vlad, who was Dracula, and Elon Musk posting that, while you see that he, with Muslims, is boosting accounts that are known to be anti-Muslim, such as his here boosting of, look at this. So he's basically, he knows when he replies to an account on Twitter, he attracts audiences to it. Now, this account that he replied to, there's even been a reader's note attached because it was putting out propaganda, but it's none other than Robert Spencer, a known anti-Islam, anti-Muslim commentator. He's particularly anti-Islam commentator, I should say, Robert Spencer from the US. And Musk has been boosting his content. It's not just the Amy Mech example. So when you add all of these things together, Osman, that's what I'm saying. We start seeing a pattern. When you combine that with boosting certain voices and paying them, and censoring other voices on that same platform and paying them, and then you combine the fact that he's told us he's developing AI so that he can chip your brain. And then, you think this guy is the guy that's going to resist technocracy? This guy is your savior? Or is he the golden calf? Is he the false Messiah that you have mistaken for a savior, for a leader? Is he the analogy of that golden calf? Is he that golden calf that that Banu Israel worshipped after they were led by Musa alayhi salam, Moses, out of the dominion of Pharaoh? And he went up the mountain, and in a period of brief absence, the people were so desperate they turned again to a false idol, the golden calf. In other words, worshipping gold and everything that glitz. It's a beautiful analogy. Everything that sparkles, the shiny stuff. Yeah. Again, it's not a lost.
Also, the analogy that the calf with its teeth is the mother, but mother. It's an interesting one because the analogy was the calf as the mother with its teeth. So you're going to be fed, but the other concept of this is that the word matter actually comes from mother, the root word. So what you get is this idea of like worshipping and relying upon what is there from a sensory perspective. So the lesson within it is very deep, but the issue that we get here is that look at all of the build up of Musk. He's a one-man accepted he's the accepted billboard, isn't he?
Yeah.
Says something, and even your conservative filter can't block it because he's already got rid of the so-called bad guys that you were seeing before. You remember Twitter in its hyper progressive left mode. So then Musk comes in, and the funny thing with Musk is he was universally supported. Yeah. Universally. And when I say universally, I'm even talking about, the so-called Muslim vanguard.
Well, obviously yours truly was the forever skeptic.
I remember that as well. So this is what happens when your brother's completely, well, I thought I was nuts, and then you're nuts as well. So I don't know what that makes us. You see what I mean?
What was it? Never go full retard, yeah?
Yeah, never go full retard. Do you see what I mean? So, well, only one of us was supposed to go full retard, but both of us did it. So, now everyone's in trouble.
What a great film, man.
Oh, you can't.
Tropical Thunder, yeah?
Proper.
Watch Tropical Thunder.
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
hilarious. Go on. You were making a point.
I was making a point. The point being with this, that the way the problem here is, Margie, that you know when you watch this, when he makes comments,
Yeah.
those comments are going to slide under your guard.
Yeah.
You're just going to take them on because you've already got a warm idea of whatever Musk is.
Yeah.
And I remember, you have to remember that we've watched this all the way through.
Yeah.
Where he's been celebrated. He's been, whether it was the Bitcoin phenomenon all the way through, with what was it, Akita coin and all of this stuff. You had all of these things.
He had a He played all the crypto. He played all the crypto bros because he entered the market with that Dogecoin, and they all thought Musk is a Bitcoin enthusiast. Then he allowed to buy Tesla with Bitcoin, and then you remember what happened. China complained because he got Tesla factories in China, and in the end he caved to the pressure, which is what we're saying here is going to happen with WeChat. Same thing. He's got that kind of, and it's no surprise. We've just shown you that he's banned somebody that criticized Tesla from his app. We literally just showed you that. I'm going to put it up.
The point is with it, I think the thing that the audience needs to understand with this is that the WeChat thing's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very clear. Look, Musk's manipulation or the manipulation that's being done right now is being done in a more sophisticated way because they're pretending that you've got a choice.
Yeah.
They're pretending you've got. What do you think this blue tick situation? The idea that if you don't do what we're telling you to do, we just take you off. We shadow ban you. We make it impossible because we've got all of the control of the very specific part of the digital sphere.
Yeah, where you could
the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Looks at.
Yeah.
Now the point is with this, Maajid, that look, the WeChat thing is saying to you, they're telling you the rules are very clear.
Yeah.
They're telling you these are our rules. This is how it works. Yeah. Then what you get is you get clean streets.
Yeah.
You get zero crime. Yeah. You get, this will be your end result. People are happy. Yeah. What we're getting on the other side of this is a lot messier. Yeah. What we're getting on the other side of this is whether it's through the system, an increase in crime, so you give up your rights.
Yeah.
Whether it's
this is the nudging that with via false flags that the states engage.
And as you just said with the false flags thing, Maajid, what do you think this idea of bringing in the Muslim broken window, so you can now, because that industry was already built with the global war on terror.
Yeah. That's right.
Now what you've got is now when you're able to resuscitate, because it's interesting now, because the Muslims now, instead of being like what everyone's been recognizing, that like what happened in Michigan, where it was the one town in Michigan where they said, we don't want pride marches here. We don't want pride flags.
Trudeau there's referring to. That's what he's complaining about.
And the point is with this, it's something where the Muslims. So then we end up with this thing of who's more conservative, or who is the vanguard of conservatism. So remember, Tate popped up and gets pulled down, and there's all the question marks that they put on Tate. And then you've got this other side of things, which is a conservative movement where the Musk is, he's playing his game there as well, isn't he? He's playing his game there as the vanguard, the protector of conservatism.
Yeah.
And flipping it round, because now you get the threat from the transgender, and then, let me throw another threat on top of that. The Muslims.
Yep.
Look, they're coming to get you. Look, they already...
This is the playing up the culture wars to distract people with bread and circuses. Meanwhile, we're not looking up because we're too busy looking left and right.
But the problem is with this, that as we well know with this, Because the problem is, Maajid, that, like we're going to have to be dealing with after the show. Yeah. Yeah. There are victims to this on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah. People get attacked over this.
Yeah.
The system comes in and abuses this. People get their, you had the Quran, the legalized Quran burnings. You had
In Sweden.
in
You know
Sweden.
what happened after that? Just to let viewers know, a Muslim applied to burn the Old Testament and the Bible outside the Israeli embassy. The Swedish government gave the Muslim permission. The Muslim protester went to the Israeli embassy and then gave a speech saying that he felt it was disrespectful to burn any holy book, and that he felt he'd made his point enough there just by getting that platform to say that.
Yeah.
So I felt it was a very interesting reaction to the Quran burning by somebody who set it up as if he was going to get vengeance and then said he respects every holy book.
But there's Maajid, if we're all sitting in the same water, yeah, which is reality, yeah, who are you looking at and calling the other?
Yeah.
Yeah. When one guy can sit there and send a tweet and endanger different people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even make people afraid. Because you've got to think to yourself that, there's going to be people that read that and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've got Muslims around the corner. I've got a mosque around the corner.
Yeah.
What do these Muslims, when they eat halal meat, do they kill the animals in the mosque?
That's what I mean, is what this guy, Ian Miles Chung, I don't know where he came from. No one ever heard of him before COVID, but that's why this is so, because he's got no skin in the game. He's not in Europe. He's not in America. Why is he implying there's too many Muslims in England?
And all this is...
And who is he, bro, in the first place? Like, can I ask you a question? Where the fuck have all these random influencers all of a sudden appear from? I mean, where do they all come from? They all got their little pretty blue checks and they all got these nice names like Ian Miles Chung. And they all have these like strange, like no history. And they suddenly appear as commentators on global affairs. Like, remember that dude when the Putin, Kremlin, Wagner thing was going on?
Yeah.
And that random dude who's like, what's his name? Who does the Twitter?
Mario.
Yeah. Suddenly it comes out of nowhere, starts giving geopolitical analysis on one of the most complicated periods and tension points in the world at the moment. And that's Russian relations with the West. And he's like, yeah, there's going to be a nuclear strike in an hour. You fucking idiots.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And he's got like thousands of people watching on Spaces, and he's warning of nuclear strikes. Do you want World War III? Are you that fucking childish?
Because you are being manipulated. You're being directed to news sources. You have people that are coming out with, so they've gone from one extreme to the next, and as long as they're part of some echo chamber where they can get attention. So what they've done is they've created multiple echo chambers, where people can get attention. Yeah, so you can go from the mainstream to some deviancy where you feel important.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, what you've got in the world right now is you've got increasing problems where what ends up happening is your bills are going up, the cost of living is going up, and instead of people coming together to deal with things, what ends up happening is that you sit there as part of your little deviant echo chamber talking about conspiracy theories of people drinking children's blood.
Yeah.
And the reason the reason I'm talking about this is because there's a concept here: circle of influence and circle of concern. If you live in a rubbish tip, tidy up that rubbish tip first. Yeah. Don't start thinking to yourself that you can go and rescue the world from the devil incarnate.
That's, by the way, that's the solution. So what you've just touched on there is really important, because people might get the wrong impression with what we're talking about here. Yeah. We're not telling some random in their bedroom from Malaysia to start commenting on geopolitical affairs by saying, look how bad the problem is, get involved and start get out of your league, start commenting on like whether or not, you know, Wagner is going to take over Putin or not. We're not advocating for you to take this information and think you're going to change the world. We're showing you that, you know, the rising of consciousness is required, and it begins by exactly what you just said, Usman, there, because it begins by recognizing you have to look within, and that peace that we're saying can come, that love that is written right there in Arabic on that hat there, yeah, that can only come when you look within and stop thinking these people are going to save you. They're not going to save you. You have to take responsibility for your own circle of immediate influence and then wider concern, as you say, bro. But that requires a lot of introspection and recognition of our own sense of separation from our society and community, how we're paying into this ourselves.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is it? It's like, what is it that human beings want? Yeah, it's like you've got people that are. Like, I was sat there with my wife watching. It's an old film done by the Training Day guy called Brooklyn's Finest. Yeah,
yeah,
and there's a scene in it where you got a whole lot of New York cops around the table when they're talking about how they can't make enough of a living to feed their families. Yeah. And I was watching it, and I said to my wife, guys, it's so simple, where you see all of these people that their concern is their kids and their family. And and that suffering's being put there. Why? Because people aren't because people don't want. They figured out that if people became happy and became satiated, they used to get concerned about other people. They figured that out in the golden years of America. Hence, during the Vietnam War, you had protests on the streets.
Yeah,
it wasn't because people were rebellious. It was because those were the golden years of America, and people were like, well, why are we abroad attacking other people?
Yeah.
So what happens is, the Reagan years took out all of the trade unions. They made things. If you make things more difficult for people, they become worried about themselves and their local situation.
Yeah.
Yep. And what you then do is you stop solidarity, you stop revolution. Yep. I remember being in LA, and I remember saying to the LAPD guys that we were training, I remember going, look, how come you got all of these homeless people on your streets? Because you're like the richest country on the planet. Yep. And the guy that looked at me was like, goes, welcome to America. Yeah. And because you don't see it's not, remember, you don't see it in New York the way you see it in LA.
Yeah,
it's
San
crazy.
Francisco, for example, California generally.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, LA, it was crazy. But the
in
point
LA,
is,
what you're referencing is an entire block.
Yes, Skid Row. I found out about
a few neighborhoods, a few blocks, and it's just, if you got, I don't. It's not advised that you actually walk through there, but I did. But it's interesting to witness because of what you're saying. And San Francisco has similar.
Yeah, the point is here, Marge. Like, think about it. So, if you sit down with now people don't do this, do that, but because our work's always been, and it still is, people.
Yeah.
We don't just do this. It's like singularly.
Yeah.
I've got appointments after this.
Yeah.
And remember, they're not paid appointments. This is because the analogy that
it's how
what our teachers taught us, Maajid, that if you want honey, you give a spoonful of honey out to get a spoonful of honey back. Yeah. And we're honey addicts, so you got to bring that love.
Yeah.
But the point is, when you sit with people, and we're not talking about with their labels. When you sit with people and you realize what their pain, that's relative. You sit with one person and hear their story. You've actually got your heart will connect. And the problem here is that there's a disconnect going on. This thing when people start throwing these labels, these Muslims that you're talking about, they're just, if you went up to them, you might find out that this guy supports the same football team as you, or likes the same music as you, and then all of a sudden he's part of your group. on a different level. Yeah, because the people that you're meeting aren't an absolute. No one is an absolute. There aren't. You haven't got these things where you're like dogs and cats, but they want you to think like that. They want you to think this is a complete other that you're dealing with. No. Guys, they're the same as you.
Yeah. Precisely.
Everyone's the same.
So what I envision is to see because people often get depressed when they hear that it's as bad as we're saying it is. But recently, one of the things I did on Twitter, because I think it's always important to remember that actually there is hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And so there's this phenomenon where they're calling it black pilled, where people believe there's never, ever going to be a solution to these problems that we highlight. And I just felt it was important to remind people, I'm trying to find the thing now as I speak, but I felt it was important to remind people that ultimately there's two ways of looking at how bad or how good the situation is. And one is to say we are in a really, really dark and going to get darker moment forever in history, like permanently depressed about it. Another way of looking at it is to say that this has always been how the world works. Welcome to reality. The veil has been lifted and is being lifted. And the more that veil lifts, the more people understand the reality of the world and how it works, the more likely that you're going to have a raising of consciousness. And when you have that raising of consciousness and people, for example, start paying attention to their own circle of influence and circle of concern, as we say, start standing up on their own legs, taking responsibility for themselves and their own reality, start basically being aware of how they're being manipulated around them and not facilitate that manipulation, but instead choose love. When that happens, then you can see instead this moment that we're going through, not as a very dark period that's set to get darker, but actually as us lifting the veil on a very dark period, revealing how it's been this dark, which is the linguistic meaning of the word apocalypse, revealing, the great revealing, so that we head towards a raising of consciousness or the great awakening. In other words, there's a way of looking at this is that we're in a sunrise, not in a sunset, and that the darkness we're witnessing is the last part of the night, and that things can get better. And one of the ways I think things can get better is to always focus when hearing things like this on practically what directly we can do. Now, these sorts of let's say call them spells, that they're designed to conjure up bigotry. But these sorts of spells, like, for example, divide and conquer, one of the things we can do to avoid falling for those traps is precisely that, is to be aware of what's going on and not succumb to the attempted bigotry that is being promoted, the othering. So to give you guys a reminder of that is when, bro, you'll remember this, Usman. And again, while I'm speaking, I've pulled it up. So I just wanted to show everybody, this is what we're, don't listen to the permanently depressed and pessimistic black pills. They know literally nothing, which is why they forecast literally nothing. We're not entering a darker age. We're slowly beginning to emerge from a very dark one. Congratulations, you're all witnesses. And what I wanted to, this is just the continuing of the thread. Closed minds open every day. Open minds really rarely close back again. Darkness is simply the absence of light. Evil is simply the absence of love. Love and light are coming. There is a way to look at this in a positive sense. And that's why I'm saying you're witnessing this period so that you may teach your grandchildren what happened. Never, ever let humanity forget what you're slowly beginning to emerge from. The task is to inform humanity, and the cost of not doing so is too high. Now, what I'm saying here is that there's a way of looking at this in an optimistic way, and that is we're emerging from a dark period. But if we do so, that means we begin with ourselves and we start realizing that we mustn't fall for any of these psychological divide and rule tactics. You will see othering happening across the spectrum, whether it's allegation that the truckers were racist, whether it's the French police's allegation that the protesters and rioters in France were savages and vermin, as was said. And at the end of the day, they were referred to as ethnic minorities explicitly in that statement. That's why I'm mentioning it. And at the end of the day, the point is here to understand that if we can see what's going on, then we can begin with ourselves by not promoting those who are playing a role in this divide and conquer tactic. And that what it does is it makes it incredibly difficult for these people to cast their illusions. None of this can work if we don't comply. But that's a long game, but that's the only game that matters really in the end.
Yeah, well, that's the analogy, isn't it? The sorcerer.
Yeah.
That's why the whole story of Moses and when Pharaoh's sorcerers stepped forward.
Yeah.
The idea given there is that these sorcerers what they were showing, it looked like it was real, but it was fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing with this is the idea of this like overwhelming power and this control of you. Remember, if you actually analyze for a moment what you're stressed about,
yeah,
and then you go and open your fridge and think, well, actually, I could probably got enough food in here to last me a week.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It's like every single thing in front of you, if you're in this constant state of fight or flee, you're in this sympathetic system, which is where they've got you stuck. And they've had you stuck there since when? Since you were sitting there going, oh, I need to get my exams done or I'm not going to get a job.
Yeah.
Or when you were...
I need to get the job or I'm not going to be able to find a place to pay rent. Oh, I need to get a higher wage or I'm not going to pay my mortgage. And then you're stuck in that fucking plate. What's it called? You know,
the hamster wheel.
Yeah, the hamster wheel.
And the thing with this is, Maajid, this is the trick. It's like, once again, we get to what our teacher teaches us. He goes that there's the primary and there's the secondary.
Yeah.
And if you concentrate on the secondary, he goes that you're going to get sucked out because the idea of the primary is it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all from the source, but it's interconnected. So, but you've got to let it flow. You've got to have your purpose. And now we get back to circle of influence and circle of concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this idea that if we let it flow and we just have this thing of, okay, I'm going to do what's right, I'm going to let it flow. And remember, even this idea of letting it flow, obviously there's going to be obstacles in the way. Yeah, because the obstacles there for you to actually see the reality and, okay, let me adjust my influence. I need to bring in a little bit more white where I might have brought in a little bit too much blue.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And bro, look at us too, right? And look at the very colorful lifestyles we've led up until this point. And people will look at us and think, how the fuck did those guys do all those things that they've done? But I want to say something which I know you agree with, just for the viewers. We literally, we don't like plan out what we're going to do. We live in the moment and respond to things based upon a present state.
Yeah.
That's literally how we live. I can't tell you what's going to happen to you and me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? But it always seems to work out okay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the end.
It's like I've got a guy that I'm speaking to right now. He goes to me, yes, so tell me how. And I go, look, bro, there's no like secret sauce.
No. You got to...
You can't... And I know it's like, you got hours on the phone, Maajid, yeah? And you think you can hear the scratching in the background with the pen.
Bro, do you know anyone, for anyone as well, I'm going to give a literary reference because we call it a weekly lifestyle show. It's not all heavy politics. So let's move to culture. But I want to give a literary reference. There's a book, 3-volume work, which Obama actually even, which is another story, but Obama even recommended. But actually, I've halfway through it. It's called The 3-Body Problem. Some of you may have come across it. It's a science fiction novel. It's written in Mandarin originally, translated into English. I'm obviously reading the English because I wish, though, I can't read Mandarin. But I'm halfway through it, and the character is based around this concept of being what's called a wall facer. Now, what's a wall facer? It's so in this science fiction novel context of this book, a wall facer is somebody who's been granted authority by all authorities on the planet to literally define their own future and be facilitated to do so by everybody else legally. And you have to read the book to understand exactly what I'm saying, but those who've read it at least will know what I'm talking about. But what you just said there, it reminds me of that concept of a wall facer. Look, if you're in the present state, which you are, by the way, all of us actually should be sovereigns of our own being, and sovereign over our own decisions. If we're in the present state, that's how to be sovereign over your own decisions, because you are conscious of the fact that literally everything you do is going to affect your reality around you for the better or for the worse.
But then
use the word karma to describe that.
But then it's about having the practices that can bring you. I mean, you're like, I don't know, maybe some genius sometime in history would figure out that, like
Exactly.
when the sun's in a certain place,
Yeah. So tomorrow,
maybe they break up the day into like 5 parts.
can I riff on that a second? This breaking the day to 5. So one of the things I'm really happy about is, since Ramadan, I said that I started going really careful with the solar cycles and the lunar cycles. So just to explain for people that the sort of Islamic foundation of meditative practice is on the solar cycle. So for example, the sun, you have the Fajr prayer or the sunrise meditation, and you have the afternoon one, the late afternoon one, the sunset one, and then the one before late night before you sleep. So that's 5, and they're based on the solar cycle. But the months are based on the lunar cycle, which is irregular because sometimes you have 28 lunar days in a month, sometimes you have 29, sometimes 30, depending on when the moon is sighted. So that's where with Ramadan, sorry, I think it's sometimes 28, sometimes 29. But that's where in Ramadan, sometimes you have countries that start and end on a different day because it's all based on the physical sighting of the moon. So what you've got at once with this meditative practice is a synchronicity with both solar and lunar cycles, which keeps you in touch with the, how I interpret this anyway, the rational or logical aspect of day and the mystical or spiritual element of night. Solar, lunar, you're combining both, or your left and right hemisphere, or your brain and your heart. That oneness is what I believe that that kind of represents there, with the combination of both solar and lunar in setting time in the form of breaking up the day in one end and breaking up the months on the other. And that meditative practice I found very beneficial, with also the breath work, as you know, Usman, in not just the dhikr or the remembrance, but I also, for me, in the recitation or the tilawah of the Quran, I find the breath work is incredibly helpful and forces me to be in the moment. Now, tomorrow, my wife messaged me today, and she reminded me. She said tomorrow is the anniversary of our joint Uyghur activism. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the 4-day hunger strike that I did for the Uyghur Muslim community a long time ago while I was still on LBC, to try and get the 100,000 signatures on the website that would trigger a debate in Parliament that actually happened. We got the 100,000 signatures after 4 days of a hunger strike. It triggered a debate in Parliament, and the UK Parliament unanimously voted in defense of the Uyghurs in a symbolic vote, but still, it was important to draw attention to their plight. And Uyghurs are an ethnic community in land that the current Chinese government has cleared, and Disney has made movies in. For example, Mulan, the movie, was made on land ethnically cleared of Uyghurs, and they're now put in factories making all the clothes we wear. So it was an important piece of activism for us to draw attention to that. You'll remember it, Osman. You and I were.
I remember it was me. Do you remember it was me and you discussing all the world's ills?
Yeah.
You grabbed a hold of that and you went,
yeah,
something needs to be done here.
Needs to be done.
Yeah.
Now, my wife texted me yesterday, reminding me that the anniversary of it is tomorrow. So again, congratulations. You don't know this yet, Osman, bro, but congratulations to Rahima Mahmood, the head of the World Uyghur Congress in the UK, who invited me to her son's wedding in Turkey. Unfortunately, I can't make it, but it was lovely of her to invite me to her son's wedding, because the reason that he's getting married, Dhul Qarnayn is his name.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, Dhul Qarnayn is his name, which is the sword of Imam Ali, mashallah. So he's a good brother. The reason he's getting married is that when we did this activism, Rahima invited us, the UK head of the World Uyghur Congress, invited us to dinner as a thank you. And so Rachel and I went to that dinner. Her son, Dhul Qarnayn, turned up.
Oh, Zulfikar, you mean?
Sorry, Zulfikar, sorry, Dhul Qarnayn. Yeah, sorry. That's Dhul Qarnayn, is Alexander the Great. Sorry, her son, Zulfikar, turned up. And at that dinner was a young Turkish girl who was on a separate table that didn't know anyone there, but got talking to Zulfikar, and they ended up getting engaged. Now they're getting married. So that he met his now wife, inshallah, at the thank you dinner they did for this whole kind of activism that we did. Now that all, the anniversary of it, my missus is reminding me, is tomorrow. And then I suggested to her, I said, let's do, to remember this moment, why don't you join me and allow me to lead you in an Islamic meditation? And she's agreed to. So we're going to do that tomorrow to remember the Uyghur Muslim community. We'll do some dhikr, and we'll read some Quran together, and then I'll ask her to come and perform some salah. And I think she will. She's agreed to anyway, inshallah. So that meditation you've referenced, back to your point, I'll throw it back to you, is that how to create that present state of mind. It doesn't have to be Islamic, by the way. Like, I'm not saying you all have to copy us, but this is what we do, isn't it? This is how we do it.
Yeah. But this is the thing. It's like the issue with it is yeah, you can read the books, you can do all of that, but the problem is, I call it putting the speedometer back to zero. Yeah. But the issue is to come out of what's called the directed state. So it's kind of like you're constantly in this state which is a concentrated state, where it's like, if I'm picking this up, my brain targets in on it and I pick it up. So my left hemisphere targets in on it and I pick it up, while my right hemisphere is spatially aware of everything around it. So if there's an obstacle in the way,
yeah.
But the problem is the education system has like locked us in to a focused state. So you're in a very focused state. And the problem with the focused state is also driven by the sympathetic system, meaning the same thing that you have for fight or flight. Because remember, feeding yourself, remember everything that you're doing is the complete focused doing aspect has a target, doesn't it? Consumerism is what? The end goal of the consumerism is, I need to get this, or I need to keep that. Yeah. Now the problem is, you can push that speedometer back to zero, which doesn't actually make you environmentally aware. It just makes you like, I'm not thinking about anything right now, so I'm being mindful, and hopefully I can try and build some neurological pathways and influence my neuroplasticity to create a present state, but you can't.
No.
Yeah, you can like flick in and out, but you're returning back to your focused state. The point is, there's a lot of work needed. Yeah, and that's why to do it daily, but also, there's a lot of levels to it, isn't there? That with traditional Advaita Vedanta, for example, they used to talk about the breath, the pressure, and the blood. Yeah, and it was recognized with traditional Advaita Vedanta that, and this is, remember, their saints from that tradition saw the prayer within Islam covered all 3 points, and they were like, wow, it's amazing that you've got the masses doing a very high level meditative practice. That's not including the washing away of what you've done. So this isn't about sin, because the idea is that before you've even gone to the meditation,
you do the wudu.
You're already clean. But the thing is with this, we're not talking about religion. We're talking about practice. And the problem is here, Mods, it's like we get into that discussion, what works? Like Bruce Lee said it himself, He goes, he will take a boxer that's been training for a year and put a boxer up against the Kung Fu master and put his bets on the boxer. That's quite a statement to make. Now, the point is, then we get to this same conversation when we're talking about the mind. Andrew Tate didn't become Muslim because he wanted more followers, or because of even from that religious point of view, he became Muslim. Why? Because he tasted that meditative exercise. He tasted.
He wanted more of the honey.
Wanted more of the honey.
Doesn't obviously absolve him of other things, but that's the point. You encourage people to do good.
Yeah, and the point is with this that what works, because at the end of the thing, the reason I say it in the way that I say it, you remember, we've got this thing where our method. It's our methodology, isn't it?
Yeah,
Maajid. Here's the fountain. come and drink as much as you want.
Precisely. I want to just quickly clarify something, by the way. When I said Dhul Qarnayn is Alexander the Great, that's in the tafsir of Imam as-Suyuti. That's one opinion. I don't want to say that's the
Yeah. I
don't want to say
I'm
that's
not even getting into that's a whole.
that was me just remembering, because that's
Bro,
the that I
you know
read.
what? You don't even want to go down.
Yeah, exactly.
Go down
So
that
to
history.
clarify that point. That's not me saying that's the only invalid opinion. Just want to clarify. That's Imam Suyuti's opinion on.
Yeah. So don't even.
Anyway, her son's name is Zulfiqar, as you correct.
Zulfiqar.
Imam Ali is Zulfiqar.
But the point being with this, that what if for a moment, now here's a revolutionary thought process, Maajid, because it's like I was speaking to he'll get famous mention at Disco today, just before this this phone call.
Yeah,
my boy Disco. I said to Disco, I go, look, it's odd because when I'm speaking to people nowadays, I'm having to deal with their labels and what they can say. But family's family. You have your brothers around you. Yeah. And if you're looking at it from a labels perspective, there's a big issue, because when you've got this thing about labels, so if I go into a room and it's like what we just said about someone who supports the same football team as you.
Yeah.
If you see someone with a t-shirt, if you see someone with the football t-shirt of a team that you support, you'll be able to go up to him and connect.
Yeah.
If you see someone that likes the same music as you, you can go up to them and connect. And this is the whole point. It's like, what allows you to connect? Now, the problem we've got right now is people are looking at excuses to split people up.
Yep.
And be under no illusion that this is some time of like great acceptance. You had during the bloody Crusades, during the Crusades, they used to have in the breaks during the battles, you'd have wrestling matches going on, and there was this code of chivalry was so upheld that people would go and trade with each other. They'd be friends and then be fighting each other. When Richard the Lionheart got sick, Salahuddin sent his physician. The idea of humanity wasn't so distant as it's become. And what and it's crazy because every single bloody generation, and it is when I say generation, Marge, I'm talking about that, like, what we talked about, that 5-year cycle.
Yeah.
Every single bloody generation, it's like you got your citizen test.
Yeah.
Am I British? I don't know. Are we going to be British next year?
Do you know the interesting thing though, bro? In longer terms, I find it so interesting to wonder what will happen. Like now, I've got you as well. You've got a 5-year-old. Mine's 6. Is yours 5?
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
Now that's unlike us, who only had an immigrant experience of parents. What will that 5 or 6-year-old be like once they're grown men in their 40s who have the confidence to speak in this way, having parents that were also basically claim these lands as their home, As their home. Yeah. So how are you going to otherize somebody whose own grandparents, for example, claim this land as their home? It's going to get harder for the otherization. These conversations are going to carry on. It's what I meant by the fact that open minds, closed minds open every day, but open minds really rarely close back again. That this is for me, I see it as it's one direction traffic, and that is hopefully, inshallah, that minds are going to open slowly. This is obviously not going to happen overnight. Yeah,
but this is the thing. This brings us back to our other point of the week, Margie, with the Luke fiasco.
Oh yeah. We haven't touched on any of that, but you want to explain to everyone what's going on.
I know. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go right around the houses with that one. I'll bring in all the. So you do the quick version, Margie.
Sorry, this is a simple version that keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah.
There's internal Muslim community beef between a social media influencer, is probably the more accurate way I can describe him. A newly emerged, new compared to us. Obviously, I'm old. I'm 45, but a young man who's a newly emerged Muslim community social media influencer picking on some of the theologian elements from our age group who are also on social media, but are on the more religious side, who are in America. This whole thing's in America. And there's now some internal beef that's emerged between the da'i, which is the sort of preacher online, and the alim, or the sheikh, or the scholar. And there's like a huge fight that spilled out. And it's the absurd thing, is hilarious thing, actually, gallows humor, sorry guys, is that it's involved the well-known rapper Lupe Fiasco, whose heart smack bang in the middle of this beef. And it sounds crazy for me to describe it like this, but if you look into Lupe Fiasco's Twitter feed, you might see some of it. Anyway, what were you going to say about it?
No, but the point is with this, it's like you've got these like dogmatic grand rules that are there, which is fine if there's no questioning, and it takes me back to when one of my boys, Abu Bakr Mansur, was in Wandsworth prison, and I went in to visit Abu Bakr, and he said to me that there was one of the Akis who just converted was a Afro-Caribbean brother, and this guy had dared, he'd become Muslim, but he'd dared to still believe in evolution. So Abu Bakr had to get in the way of a few of the more zealot characters wanting to give him a kicking. And the point being used that, look, everything is an evolution of thinking.
Just to contextualize what you just said again for viewers, because Britain's prisons and generally Europe's prisons are on hard, pretty much the inmate communities on hard, kind of pretty much underneath these organized Muslim inmates. So that's the context. So if somebody's deemed to have been in any way stepped outside of that organized inmate community, they could be in danger. And that's what you're saying Muchan stepped in to avoid. He defended somebody that was being picked on and said, listen, stop. And they stopped.
And because at a certain point we had influence over some of the main prisons in the UK with the guys that we had in there. But the point is with this,
I think we still have the influence, bro.
Well, the thing is, what I'm saying though, Maajid, is that the issue with this is that when you get that zealotry and fear of conversation, because there should be an aspect here of if someone asks a question, you've got to be able to answer it. Like this thing where you've got these. And I don't even like to use the word extremist because it validates it like it's an extreme. You've got a
dogmatists,
a deviant subculture which is relying upon systematic exposition. Now let's break it. Oh, sounds complicated, Systematic meaning they've got a system of taking the information out of a book. So if I've got a book, I've got a method of taking the information out of this book. And we agree the rules. But if I say to you, this is an Eastern tradition that is based on the validity of the oral tradition and the chain of that oral tradition. Hence, like the people that you see behind me.
And the teacher who's got it from the teacher who's got it from the teacher who's got it from the prophet. That's the chain of authority with which that living tradition lives through the teacher. Nothing you extract from a book can trump the living example of the teacher that's learned it from that chain of authority back to the Prophet Muhammad.
And that was the same with Judaism. And it's recorded. Moses, peace be upon him, said that. He goes that once you leave the oral tradition, people will come and split you. And that was when and literally, you can, anyone who studies the Abrahamic faiths with detail, I'm not talking about some religious idiot who's sitting there doing the comparative nonsense, but anyone who does it with a brain can find this.
Yeah.
But the point is with this that the issue is when you've got this this idea of people rigidly holding on to exposition, then what ends up, or what's been taken out of a book, what ends up happening is anyone who goes against their blind focus to the text. Now you got to remember, why is it that you have this blind connection to the text? Because you've got the cognitive dissonance. Remember, we talked about cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
There's something that you think that you know, that you don't really, you don't know it, you believe in it, and there's the distance from you to that thing. So how do you cover this distance?
Books.
Zealotry.
Yeah.
So you read it in the book.
By the books.
Yeah, so when you're reading it, you're like, now you're going to defend what's here.
Yeah.
That is your activity to cover your cognitive dissonance. That's why when you see people that know something, they're calm.
Yeah.
Yep. When you see people that think they know, they get really, but fire and brimstone is.
Oh, this is literally what that screenshot that I showed you. Don't listen to the permanently depressed and pessimistic black pills. They know literally nothing, which is why they forecast literally nothing. And that's what's causing their depression. Because they don't know, everything's always going to be evil and gloomy.
Yeah. And the problem is that how do they get past it? And you're going to say to me, yeah, but why are they purposely making themselves depressed? No. They're not. They're living they're living somewhere over there. They're life will be great when I get whatever I'm going to get, whether it's your Judeo-Christian state, whether it's your Sharia orientated, like whatever weird idea of Sharia that you've got, like which isn't, because Sharia just means pathway to the water hole.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what it means.
That's what it means.
It doesn't mean I'm going to come around your house and I don't know, cut a chicken's head off on your carpet and it doesn't mean any of that. But the problem is, what we're dealing with right now is we're in a time of zealotry, because zealotry, the great thing with zealotry is that zealotry functions from a perspective of, it's got the cognitive dissonance that fuels it, but it's got the consistent pessimism that it fuels, meaning everything will be all right when I get over there. Yeah. So your over there could be fighting the progressive left while demonizing the Muslims, while like looking at so your rational aspect might just be Musk in that.
Yeah.
Musk might be your rational aspect because he can seem very rational with all of the scientism.
Yeah. Scientism is the word.
Yeah. And then on the other side of it, and that also ties you to the status quo. Yeah, you remember, Maajid, there's a massive pull. There's a massive the status quo Velcro, so to call it, is something that people love. They love to just be, I'm part of that. Yeah.
Groupthink.
The groupthink.
Now we're on an hour and 39 minutes, so I'm going to call it to a close. But before I do, bro, I just want to ask you, how far have you got in season 3 of Mandalorian?
I'm done and dusted.
We've got to talk about it. We haven't talked about it yet. So when I see you next, we'll start talking about it.
Yeah, no.
Obviously,
Grogu's there in the back as well, watching on.
Did you enjoy it as much as season 1 and 2?
I enjoyed it. I did a super binge on it, which I mean, I'm talking about all the way. I think I might have done all the way through, or 2 nights all the way.
Yeah,
it took me 2 nights, but I enjoyed it. I was satisfied at the end of it. I don't know what all the complaints were about.
No, it's good. I think people misunderstood, but it's the way that, when we spoke a long time ago. I remind people we spoke about Castlevania, because we've been speaking about Vlad today, and the character, the Sufi in Castlevania. I would draw people's attention to that character because it's a legendary character, really worth watching that story arc. I don't know, they're going to make any more of that?
Yeah, they're making another one that's...
Because the writer got taken out, didn't he?
No, so what it's going to be, it's going to be a descendant of... I can't remember it. a descendant of the hunter. I can't remember the name now, but my mind's gone blank.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a descendant. So it's going to be.
So, but there is something.
There is something coming
in that world, in that universe of Castlevania. Because the writer is no longer, I think, and now we got a Hollywood strike anyway. But I think that writer of that show particularly got Me Too to something.
Oh God, everyone's getting.
Yeah. Well, no, this was when everyone was getting Me Too. Yeah.
Wasn't that guy from? Was he Southend or was it?
Yeah, he's from.
No, I remember because we were like looking at it.
The weird thing was we loved the show. We knew nothing about who wrote it. We looked it up as we're like literally living that show, and the writer was from the town I was born in. That was weird.
Maybe the smoke's cleared. We can have a chat with him now. So
yeah, I mean, let me see if anyone knows him. But anyway, it was an interesting. It's really Castlevania is worth watching, but as is Mandalorian. But all right, listen, we should probably call it here. Back next week for the usual time. Tuesdays, 3 p.m. UK, 10 a.m. EST. You can also catch the audio version of this live stream via Radical Media. That's found at Maajid Nawaz on Substack, and the URL is maajidnawaz.substack.com. And we will eventually release these audio podcast files via Resistance Radio on Radical Media to all premium members. The written content, as always, on there is free. And of course, all the audio content like this is free at point of being live, such as on Rumble. And the old shows, the Radical Show, they're all free on Odyssey, but we send those podcasts out as premium content on Radical Media too. We also then finally have the long form 3-hour long conversations. We just had one with Great Barrington Declaration signatory, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. And I tried to set up the next one, Osman. You know the story, what happened there.
I'll watch it.
I'll go into it. But I'm gonna say I've asked Tess, our friend Tess Laurie, to do one with me for 3 hours. Let's see how that. I think she might do. But I'm gonna start doing those 3-hour long form conversations, which will only be available via Resistance Radio on Radical Media for premium members. But other than that, we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place for Warrior Creed. And that's it for today, Osman. Any last words?
Spread the love.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I'm about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.